Welcome to the lecture over the defense systems, or the body systems that help us in defense. So we're specifically going to look at the skeletal system, the muscular system, integumentary system, and the immune system today. So first, let's start with the skeletal system. What's the function of the skeletal system? You should already know the function from 7th grade. We're not going to spend a lot of time on learning about the functions of each of these systems, but we are going to need to understand from their function how they interact with one another. That is the goal for this year. So first, let's make sure we know the function. First, it supports and gives shape to our body. So it helps us give us structure. It helps protect our internal organs, like our skull protects our brain. The ribs protect our lungs and our heart. It helps provide for movement because the skeleton is attached to our muscles. It stores minerals like calcium and magnesium. And then also the blood cells are produced in the bone marrow inside the bones, and so it helps also produce our red blood cells. We did talk about the evolution of body systems already. That was an example of the endoskeleton, the internal skeleton. We have the exoskeleton, which is external, and then the hydrostatic skeleton, which is supported by water. Now, what are the different parts of the skeletal system? One major part is bones. It fits in a endoskeleton. These are a living part of our body that contain nervous tissue and blood vessels. Nervous tissue will send and receive information, and then the blood vessels will bring nutrients and oxygen gas that's necessary for the bone's health and growth. And also, it will allow the red blood cells to enter the bloodstream from the bones because the bones are the site of red blood cell production. And it also stores the calcium there, and so it's where you can drop off calcium or pick up calcium if you need it. That's what it looks like here. The bone has the vessels. It also has nerve endings in here. That's why it hurts really bad still when you break the bone, because there are nerves in the bones too. The bone marrow is found inside the bones. So in the center here, you'll see this red rustic colored marrow in the center, which is responsible for creating new red blood cells in animals, and it's a vital part of our circulatory system so that we can continue to create red blood cells for our blood. You remember, red blood cells is what carries the oxygen and the carbon dioxide through our blood so that we can do that gas exchange for all of our cells. So then, what are some interactions? So I said that we're not going to focus on the function. You should already know the function. But we're going to need to know how the systems interact with one another. So what are some interactions that the skeletal system has with other systems? So the skeletal system interacts with the circulatory system by the bones producing the new blood cells, in addition to storing minerals, which then will be transported by the circulatory system. And so that is one interaction. The skeletal system also interacts with the muscular system because the bones and the muscles work in opposing pairs to perform body movement. The muscles and bones support, protect, maintain posture for the human body, but they also work together in movement. And then next, the nervous system interacts with the skeletal system by the bones protecting many of the vital organs of the nervous system, like the skull, the brain. The skull protects the brain, and our vertebrae protects our spinal cord. Now, how does the skeletal system provide defense in a sport? Well, it produces immune cells to protect against disease-causing bacteria and viruses. So that's one way that it helps us with defense. It also helps us with defense with protecting those organs and support. Now let's move into the muscular system. The function of the muscular system is for us to be able to move, and it also helps us to respond to our environment. There are 3 different types of muscles. You're going to need to know the 3 types. The first type is smooth muscle. This is found within the walls of organs like our intestines, our bladder, and the diaphragm, which allows the organs to contract. This helps move food through your digestive tract. We don't consciously control these muscles, so you don't think, hey, I'm gonna breathe every single breath I breathe, right? We naturally just breathe without focusing on it. Yes, we can control our breathing, but we don't control it consciously at all times. We're also not controlling our intestines pulling food through, right? We're not saying, hey, small intestine, move that food through now. No, it's just a non-conscious control muscle. And they're also known as non-striated muscles, which means they don't have these striations when you look under the microscope. So this is an example of what the smooth muscle looks like. Here's what it looks like under the microscope, and you don't physically see these striations. The next type is cardiac muscle. These are the muscles found in the heart. This is also not under your control, so it's an involuntary type muscle. Once again, it's only found in the heart, and these ones are striated. So you see striations, and then when you look under the microscope. The last is skeletal muscles. These are the muscles that are attached to bones and allow for movement of limbs. And so these ones are voluntary. These ones you think about contracting in order to move them. These ones are striated, so they have those striations just like cardiac muscle, and they help us to maintain our posture and protect our internal organs. So once again, we're not going to focus on the functions. We're going to talk about interactions. So how do muscles and bones interact? We know that skeletal muscles are joined to bones through connective tissue called tendons, so the muscle and bone are connected by tendons. Those tendons will pull on the bone to make them work like levers. And so you have your muscle. When your muscle contracts, it's going to pull on this tendon, which is ultimately going to pull on the bone to move. This video is going to be posted in the hard copy notes, so you can go watch to see how that works. Now let's look at some more interactions. The muscular system works with the digestive system by the smooth muscle in the stomach and the intestine moving digested food throughout the body. It is in conjunction with the circulatory and respiratory system by removing products of cellular respiration like carbon dioxide and lactic acid from the muscular system are removed via the bloodstream and out the lungs eventually. So whatever is produced in the cells will be of the muscles is going to be put into our circulatory system to be removed out of the body through either peeing it out or breathing it out. And then finally, the nervous system signals the muscles to contract for movement in response to environmental stimuli. Now, how does this provide defense and support? The muscular system coordinates with the nervous system to help the animals respond to the environment. And so it's going to give us defense and support to get away from predators or to react if we're like burning our hand to be able to get away from danger. The next system is the integumentary system. The function of the integumentary system is protection, right? It protects our deeper tissues, it blocks UV radiation from our organs, and then also prevents infectious agents from coming into our body. And so we see this as the first line of defense because it's protecting us from the external agents. It aids in temperature regulation by either having us sweat when we're hot to cool us down or having us shiver when we're cold to make us warmer. It helps us get rid of waste like salt by sweating. And then also it's a sensory organ that can help us detect heat, cold, pressure, and pain. What are the parts of the integumentary system? The skin is composed of 3 different layers. The epidermis, which is the upper layer, the outer layer, which is where the most mitosis is happening, rapid cell division. It also produces keratin and melanin in those cells, which gives us our skin color. Next is the dermis, which is the inner layer. This contains the major structures of the skin. So it has blood vessels and nerves and glands, sensory receptors and hair follicles in this layer. And then the final layer is what we call subcutaneous fat, which is fat tissue, which allows for insulation to keep us warm. This video is also going to be in the hard copy notes you can watch, and it talks about how your skin heals itself after it's been wounded. Now, how does the integumentary system interact with other systems? So the integumentary system is the first line of defense in the immune system response, so we're protecting pathogens from coming in. It interacts with the circulatory system and the skin to regulate body temperature, and so That's either by whether we're cold, our circulatory system is going to relax those blood vessels to bring the blood to our skin, to warm up our skin, and also it interacts with the muscular system by causing our muscles to contract, to shiver. The skin and the excretory system excrete waste like water, urea, salts through sweating. And then also there are receptors for the nervous system that are located within the skin that can help us respond when we are being touched. Next is the immune system. This is the last one we're going to talk about today. The function of the immune system is to protect the body from disease by producing specialized cells that inactivate or destroy those pathogens or those foreign invaders. There's different parts of the immune system. The immune system consists of very special cells and organs that respond to the presence of a pathogen or a disease-causing agent. One organ is the skin. We said that that was our first line of defense, right? It's part of the integumentary system and the immune system because it's our line of defense. White blood cells, which recognize disease agents, antigens specifically, and create antibodies to tag them. So when they see those diseases, they create antibodies to tag on the antigen surface so that the white blood cells can recognize it and eat it. And specifically, those white blood cells that eat it are called macrophages. And these are the ones that destroy the antigens by physically engulfing and digesting it in the cell through endocytosis. Once again, it's the first line of defense, the skin is, and that's just to make sure that the pathogen doesn't even enter the body. So skin and mucus and saliva and tears trap and then destroy those pathogens before ever letting them get in. So those are considered part of the immune system as well. The second line of defense of the immune system is when the pathogen has already entered the body, and so we're going to have to respond to it. And so that is when we have an inflammatory response. That's where the tissue becomes swollen and painful, and that's due to white blood cells accumulating in that area. And then also the white blood cells can release chemicals to cause fevers, to help heat up our body, to help kill the pathogen as well. This is used to protect our organs and our internal environments, and it's also non-specific. So they're not physically killing it by tagging it and marking it to be killed. They're just doing it by getting white blood cells to the area and then also increasing your temperature to help fight it off. The third line of defense is the official immune response, which is triggered by antigens like viruses, bacteria, or other foreign invaders. And this is where what we call T cells and B cells, the white blood cells, recognizing the specific pathogens, and then they produce the antibodies that will help destroy the invader and protect us the next time it enters the body. And that is called immunity, when we create those antibodies so that we can recognize them in the future. And then the reaction to a second infection by the same pathogen is much faster because we already recognize the antigen, and then we can fight it off and produce those antibodies quicker. So finally, what is the immune system interactions with other organs? So first, the immune system works with the integumentary system as the first line of defense in the immune system so that we don't let the pathogen in. It interacts with the circulatory system to transport immune cells around the body, right? Our white blood cells are floating through our body to go to the site wherever the infection is. And then also the bones of the skeletal system help produce the lymphocytes, which is the white blood cells, and those macrophages that eat the pathogen and the end result in those bones. And so that's another way they interact. So that's all we have today for the defense systems. We're going to then go into nutrient absorption on our next lecture.